Hello and welcome to Gradient's weekly roundup of key business and financial developments in Sri Lanka for the week ending 24th June 2022. I'm roshaanr and here are the top stories for this week. IMF team in the country as international donor conference mooted. Bondholder sues Sri Lanka as select creditors form group to negotiate debt. Indian delegation on 3-day visit to discuss further assistance. June records lowest 3-week tourist arrivals. We will also briefly look at other notable news that made it across to our news desk and wrap up with the capital markets update. In our main story this week, on Monday, the visiting IMF staff-level delegation team, which is in the country to discuss an economic program, met Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe. This was followed by the Premier on Wednesday stating in Parliament that the staff-level agreement and a program for a bailout package would be finalized by the end of July. He further noted that China, India and Japan will be called upon for a donor conference to attract more foreign assistance, and an interim budget will be presented in August to place public finances on a more sustainable path and increase funds towards the poor. Sri Lanka's sovereign bondholder Hamilton Reserve Bank filed a lawsuit in the Federal Court of New York Southern District seeking full payment of principal and interest. The St. Kitts and Nevis-based bank holds over $250 million of Sri Lanka's 5.875% international sovereign bonds due on 25th of July. Hamilton Reserve Bank accused Sri Lanka of favoring domestic creditors by excluding bonds held by them from debt restructuring. Meanwhile, a group of 30 institutional bondholders formed a group to represent the interests of international investors during the expected restructuring of Sri Lanka's debt. They include Pacific Investment Management, T. Rowe Price Group and BlackRock. According to the Prime Minister, 3 Indian government officials are to arrive in Sri Lanka to discuss future loan assistance. However, he also expressed a cautionary note, stating that the country has received up to $4 billion under the Indian credit line so far, and while further credit has been requested, India is unable to continue to provide loans. As per the SLTDA, tourist arrivals during the first 3 weeks of June was only 18,305, the lowest in a 3-week period during the year. India was the main source market, followed by the UK and Australia, whose arrivals benefited from the ongoing cricket series. Moreover, 7 French travel agents arrived in the country for a 9-day tour, while flights between China and Sri Lanka were increased. In other news, island-wide inflation in May reached another record high. The National Consumer Price Index rose to a staggering 45.3% year-over-year, up significantly from 33.8% a month earlier. Food inflation accelerated 58% year-over-year, whilst prices of the non-food group grew 34.2%. Economy Next, citing Ajit Gunasekara, president of the All Island Poultry Association, stated that the country's broiler meat output has fallen by 30% to 12,000 metric tons a month, and the price of a kilogram of chicken has risen to 1,200 rupees due to the scarcity of forex and rupee depreciation driving imported feed costs higher. The Joint Association of Leasing and Debt Installment Payers has decided to stop making premium payments until authorities provide suitable solutions. Their demands include revision of 11.5% additional interest levied on capital outstanding, stopping the seizure of assets arbitrarily till end year, provision of a concessionary period to repay installments until uninterrupted fuel and gas supplies, and the reduction of interest rates. And now let's take a look at the weekly movement of the All-Share Price Index and the S&P SL20 Index at the Colombo Stock Exchange. At the weekly Treasury bill auction held on Wednesday, yields on all term maturities were unchanged. Of the 129 billion rupee worth of bids, approximately 31 billion rupees were accepted. And here's how the rupee performed against the dollar this week. In other market news, John Keel's Holdings is to raise rupees equivalent to $75 million from certain affiliates of Canada's Fairfax Financial Holdings via a private placement of unlisted convertible debentures. Korean Spa Packaging signed a $16 million agreement with the BOI to resume operations at the Ambalipitia paper mill, which has been defunct since 2012. And finally, LOLC Group acquired a 10% stake in DFCC Bank for 2.2 billion rupees via rights issue. This follows LOLC Group's investment arm Brown's Investment placing 5 billion rupees in HNB in 2021. And that's a wrap for this week. Follow us on LinkedIn and YouTube for more updates on business and financial developments in Sri Lanka. Until we see you again next week, thank you for watching. Stay safe.